ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
Who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Thursday Night Football Overtime. Broncos, Browns, this is exactly what we thought we were going to get tonight when these two teams showed up. Injury-riddled, limping into the game. Broncos coming into the game on a 3-game skid. Browns trying to knock off their 2-game skid. No Baker Mayfield, no Nick Chubb, no Kareem Hunt. No problem for the Browns. And I figured that it would be a low-scoring contest. I figured that, in my mind, initially I had said to you guys yesterday, if Bridgewater plays, I'm going with the Broncos. But then when I learned that they were getting their left tackle back, Jedrick Wills, and they were getting Jarvis Landry, who they activated earlier today, I said, okay, no. The Browns are going to win. And then that's when I switched to my theory of, look, when you got two evenly matched teams and you don't know what the hell to do, you go with the home team. So getting those offensive linemen back in the saddle, or Jedrick Wills in particular, because I knew they were going to have their right tackle out of this game, and that Von Miller was talking shit about, hey, I don't care who's blocking me in this game. I'm about to eat. I'm going to kill him. Whoever's at right tackle, and they had a backup at right tackle. He says, I'm going to kill him. So I was like, if they don't have their left tackle, they're in trouble. He played today. Jarvis Landry came back. And I told you yesterday, I said, they got two guys that are really impressive. I said, look out for this D'Ernest Johnson. This guy is really talented. And every time he's gotten an opportunity, I've been impressed. And I said, they also got Demetric Felton. So they got two guys that I said they can jump in and they won't miss a beat. And what happened tonight, Anthony Johnson took over this football game. D'Ernest Johnson took over this football game, and the Browns did what they, and I said to you guys as well, it's a well-coached team. I remember saying this back in the preseason when the Browns didn't play any of their starters, and I said, man, they still looked good. Even though it wasn't flashy, they're well-coached. Kevin Stefanski gets it. And, it's funny because I think there was an opportunity for him to get a job somewhere else, and he got passed up on, and then he ended up getting a job in Cleveland. I could be wrong there, but man, is he detail-oriented? Is his team always prepared? No matter the injuries, this team always looks ready to play, and they looked prepared tonight. And conversely, on the Denver Broncos side of things, this is pretty damning on Vic Fangio's end, because they've got injuries. Everybody does. So I'm not saying anything that is game changing. You lose Von Miller tonight, and apparently the X-rays came back negative on his ankle, so that's great news. Don't know the severity of the sprain. Apparently it's an ankle sprain, but we'll learn more tomorrow. But it sounds like there's nothing structurally wrong with his knee, his ankle, or anything else that he may have injured on what looked like a very scary play when he crashed into his teammate trying to get Case Keenum onto the ground. So that's the silver lining in tonight's loss, is that you did not lose Von Miller for the season. Now, could it be for an extended period of time? Who knows? If you're a Washington fan, that's great news. We don't have to deal with him next week. Okay, more likely than not, he'll probably be out of that game. And you just saw a glimpse of why I think we can beat them on Halloween next, Sunday. But Vic Fangio isn't getting the most out of this defense. And I thought this was one of the worst tackling exhibitions I've seen all season long. They could not get anybody on the ground tonight. I thought that they didn't do a good enough job of getting to Case Keenum, rattling his cage. They didn't have Donovan Peoples-Jones tonight. Odell Beckham, you can tell, is not himself. And Jarvis Landry was coming back in his first game action. I would have come after him and made them beat me. Now, granted, the Browns only scored 17 points. And the Broncos, I told you, you saw exactly why I told you there's a problem. I've always said that Teddy Bridgewater is Black Alex Smith. And you see why he's Black Alex Smith. And, my guy, Captain Spartan, was, trying to defend Teddy Bridgewater. Well, I'm a Louisville guy. I don't think it's Teddy Bridgewater. No, it's Teddy Bridgewater. And you saw why Teddy's going to always have a high completion percentage, but the yards per attempt is always going to be in the garbage. They're not going to be a great third down offense, especially if they're in third and long. If they're in third and short, and that's been a problem for Denver this year, is they've constantly found themselves in 3rd and 9 and 3rd and 7. That's not how they're going to succeed. Why? Because Teddy Bridgewater on 3rd and 9 has no problems, which is what Alex Smith does, which is why there's a check down stat named after Alex Smith, because on 3rd and 7, Alex Smith doesn't mind throwing a 3-yard check down and hoping his running back, tight end, or wide receiver is able to then break a tackle and get a first down. That can't be your go-to move. And that's Teddy Bridgewater's go-to move. How many times tonight was it 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 7? And Teddy Bridgewater said, well, I've got Noah Fant underneath 4 yards short of the sticks. I'll get it to him and see if he can't make a first down. And Noah Fant 2 or 3 times not be able to get the first down yardage necessary, and they have to punt. And that's Teddy Bridgewater in essence. Look, he'll get you 3 completions on a set of downs that totals out to 9 yards, and you got to punt. That's Teddy Bridgewater. And that's frustrating if you're a Broncos fan, but that's the story of Teddy Bridgewater. Is, every now and again, he'll hit you for a screen. They might hit you for a nice little 18-yard chunk play. They got a one-hander from Cortland Sutton down the sideline early in the game. But for the most part, it's a bunch of dinking and dunking and hoping my guys make plays for me to pad my stats. And you can't score points like that in this league, unfortunately, for Teddy Bridgewater and the Denver Broncos. And I've said this a million times. They've got a ceiling. Any team that Teddy Bridgewater starts for, there is a ceiling on how many points you can score per game, because you're just not going to be explosive with him at the quarterback position. But for as bad as the Broncos played defensively against the run tonight, they only gave up 17 points. Now, if you're a fan of the Broncos, you're disappointed. And I can attest to this as a Washington fan, because when you needed stops tonight, your defense didn't get them. And that's the frustrating part, is they got stops throughout the course of the night. They had a terrible start to the game, 2 straight possessions with scores for the Browns to jump out to a 10-0 lead. And then the defense settled in for the Broncos and got stops. Unfortunately, the Broncos offense wasn't clicking at the time. And so I don't know what the hell Teddy Bridgewater was looking at when he threw that interception. I mean, John Johnson was right there the entire time. The ball wasn't even close. Even if he's not there, I don't know if that receiver, is there where the ball is without the defender being right there. I don't know what the hell Teddy Bridgewater was doing. That said, the defense settled in and it kept this thing competitive. And it's 10-0 at half, and they're struggling. And then all of a sudden, Bridgewater in the offense goes down the field and scores a touchdown to kick off the second half. And you're like, okay, maybe we'll have a ball game here. And this is what happens when your defense isn't playing well, not well enough. You give up, you go out and you get a touchdown offensively, and now your offense is feeling good. They've got a little bit of momentum, and I call this a shutdown drive. You need a shutdown drive from your defense at that moment to get the ball back to your offense that's feeling good about itself and would like another opportunity to see if they can't build on the momentum created on the last drive when they got into the end zone and see if they can't take the lead, or at worst, tie this game up at 10. What do the Browns do? What does that Broncos defense do? Give it up immediately to Case Keenum and that Browns offense. Let them march right down the field. They had ample opportunities to keep Case Keenum out of the end zone, okay? On a 4th down, 2 guys, not 1, 2 guys had a shot at Case Keenum to stop him. And again, that speaks to this terrible tackling exhibition that I talked about tonight from the Denver Broncos. They can't get Case Keenum down short of the sticks. He gets the 1st down. They ultimately score a touchdown, and they re-establish a 10-point lead, 2-score possession game. And from that point on, it's a struggle because the Broncos aren't an explosive offense. That second touchdown that they scored, it was a 17-play drive that ate up a humongous chunk of the 4th quarter. Like, this isn't an explosive offense. So I need the ball back like immediately. So when the Broncos score that touchdown to cut the score to 17-14, a 3-point game with 5 and some change left, roughly 6 minutes left in the game, like 5:53 left. I need you to get a 3 and out because I don't have an explosive enough offense to say, hey, you can give up a first down or 2 and give it back to me with a minute and 17 seconds left and we'll make it work. No, they need about 4 minutes to make something happen. So they needed to get a stop. And you knew that they were going to run the football. Now, credit to Kevin Stefanski, and this is why I say he's dialed in. The Broncos thought they were going to run it on that first down. They come out, play action fake, and get a nice little sizable gain. The Austin Hooper. They thought they were going to run it again. They hit Jarvis Landry. He gets injured on the play, but that's with just like that. Then you throw in a earnest 20-yard run, and they're already into Broncos territory. Now you're in trouble. You're holding on for dear life. You still got a couple timeouts, though. And if you can get a stop on this set of downs, you got a chance. And the Broncos, from that point forward, had no answer for the Ernest Johnson, which they never had one the entire game, really. But it's sickening when you know they're going to run and you can't stop it. And the play to me that was indicative of the evening for the Broncos is you've got one last chance, okay, to make a stop. It's 3rd and 2. They get this first down, the game's over. Really, the game's over anyway, because even if they don't get it, they can run the clock all the way down to about 26 seconds. If they want to kick a field goal, they can. If they want to go for it, they can. They can do whatever they want because at the end of the day, I just kick the field goal because you're not scoring a touchdown, not in 20 whatever seconds. But that said, they get the first down. The Ernest Johnson smartly slides down. Game's over, except Browns have David Njoku in motion, who leans forward slightly before the snap and is called for a legal shift. So now it's 3rd and 7. You've got a chance to get off the field. And I'm curious to see what the Browns decide to do. Do they get aggressive here and try to throw it? And I said, there's no way you let Case Keenum throw it here. You've got to run this again, whether you get this first down or not. You're going to burn this clock all the way down to about 25 seconds left. And then you'll be able to kick a field goal to put you up 6, kick it off, and they can't get a touchdown. We've seen they struggled to just move the football to midfield, let alone scoring a touchdown in 26 seconds or whatever the case would be. So I said they're going to keep this thing on the ground. They come out and gun, and the Broncos give up a 9-yard run on 3rd and 7. Are you effing kidding me? You knew they were going to run it. How is that possible? The Broncos were awful tonight on defense. When they had to get stops, they were non-existent. They were non-participants in the run game from start to finish. The Ernest Johnson made them look like fools constantly tonight. Big run after big run after big run, missed tackle after missed tackle after missed tackle. They couldn't get the Case Keenum. They couldn't get him down on the ground when they needed to. And, this is a really disappointing loss if you are Vic Fangio and the Denver Broncos. And I don't know if Vic Fangio, I know if this thing continues going in the direction it's going in, he'll be canned after the season. I think he's going to be canned anyway. This was his last shot. And unfortunately, it's not going the way that he thought it was going to go. Started off like gangbusters. They played a weak schedule. They took advantage of it. But when real competition showed up, they did not show up. And unfortunately, now they're on a 4-game skid. And they're not very good. And you talk about the 3rd down offense, and it's the worst in football. You see why. I can't tell you how many times Teddy Bridgewater on 3rd and 9 decided it was okay to throw a 4-yard pass and hope that his guy broke 2 tackles and got a first down. That's bullshit. But that's how you end up scoring 14 points. And that's how you end up with the 32nd ranked offensive 3rd down conversion rate in the league. Makes a ton of sense. But am I surprised? No, it's Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, he's the Black Alex Smith for a reason. Like I said, perfect backup in this league is Teddy Bridgewater. He's nobody's starting quarterback. Nobody's starting quarterback. So big win for the Browns, man. I'm just so impressed with Kevin Stefanski as a coach, man. This team is always well prepared. Offensively, I love the play calling tonight. I thought it was a nice blend of running, not asking Case Keenum to do too much, getting him outside the pocket, changing the launch point. Screen game was a nice little fixture in the game plan tonight as well. Tight end screen with Von Miller using his aggressiveness against him, getting David Njoku the football out in space. I just thought it was a well-orchestrated game plan, knowing that, look, it's Teddy Bridgewater and the Denver Broncos. We don't need 30 tonight. It's not the Chargers and Justin Herbert where we needed, 50 to beat them a couple of weeks ago and weren't able to get it, but we scored 42. No, you're just going to need 20 tonight. They didn't even need that. Just 17 was good enough. And he knew that. Like, look, let's just make sure we don't put Case in any compromising situations. There were a couple of times they got behind the sticks with a penalty on first down. It's 1st and 20. Oh, don't worry. Dearness Johnson for 18 on first down, so it's 2nd and 2. Or Dearness Johnson for 10 on 1st and 20. Now it's 2nd and 10. So you're back to where you need to be. 2 downs to get 10 yards. You'll take it. I mean, they had the answers tonight. Oh, it's 1st and 15 after a false start. No worries. Here's a screen to David Njoku, tight end screen. Or here's a screen to Dearness Johnson. We're good. Let's get back on track. Here's a slant to Odell Beckham or to Jarvis Landry. We're back on track. So I just thought there was a good rhythm to their offense. They were in sync, and defensively, they just did the thing that they needed to do, which is, hey, don't give up any stupid, cheap, deep plays against this offense that struggles to create explosive plays. Make them earn everything. Because at some point, they're going to have a mistake. They're going to have a batted ball. Teddy Bridgewater is going to feel pressure that's non-existent. He's going to end up throwing it away, waste it down. And next thing you know, it's 3rd and long. And now you got a chance to get off the field because he's going to check it down and throw it 4 yards short of the sticks. And all you got to do is rally up and tackle. So great job by the Browns of just taking advantage of the situation and just not doing anything stupid. Literally, this is one of those games where, hey, if we don't turn it over, if we don't self-destruct, we should win this game. And that's what they did. They stayed clean in the turnover department. Case Keenum took what the defense gave him. If it wasn't there, he didn't force it. If he needed to use his legs, he did. And, there were a couple of times I'm like, Case, what are you doing? What are you doing? One time he was rolling left and he threw back across his body into triple coverage to the tight end who's at the line of scrimmage. I'm like, Case, what are you doing, dude? Like, that wasn't worth that. Literally, if he catches it, it's no gain. You're throwing it into triple coverage right around the line of scrimmage. If this thing gets batted in the air, it's probably going to get picked off. What are you doing? He's like, I don't know. I'm sorry. Don't do that shit again. Okay? Okay. Then there was another one where he throws up a loft ball down the field, and it was one-on-one with Surtain, but I'm like, I don't think you should be doing that. You don't have a receiver that can go up and climb the ladder right now. I wouldn't do that if I were you. And Surtain had a better chance of getting that football, but it was 3rd down, so it's not a big deal. But anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section. I think I have a super chat. And I do, and this is from B-Ball God. Thank you for the super chat, B-Ball God. Greatly appreciate you, who writes, finally smoking on that Dan Snyder pack. Look, don't get excited. Don't get excited, man. Until something happens, nothing's happening. And that's the way you should approach it, because that's the way I'm approaching it. Until something happens, nothing is happening. So we'll see what happens. Let's get to the rest of the comments. Big Blue Rising writes, how come Drew Lock didn't get a snap, Lou? The Broncos were playing Case Keenum. He didn't get a snap because they think he stinks. In the one game that he was thrusted into the game against the Ravens, he was awful. He didn't give him a chance. And, I'm a Drew Lock fan, but I was so optimistic for him in the preseason. He was lighting up the Minnesota Vikings in the preseason first game, and I was like, this could be the year for Drew Lock. They got all their weapons. They got all this speed, KJ Hamler and Jerry Jeudy and all of these guys, and they should be getting Jerry Jeudy back here shortly. He may be back next week for the game against Washington, and that'll help the offense out tremendously as well. Gives them some more speed, because without Hamler, who went down with the ACL, and Jeudy with that high ankle sprain in week 1 against the Giants, you really don't have any speed now. So getting Jerry Jeudy back will do wonders for them, and I think they'll get him back against Washington next week. But Drew Lock wasn't good in that one game they saw him in. And like I said, he lit it up in the first preseason game, and then he showed his true colors the next week against Seattle's 2s and 3s, where he was god-awful. Turned it over like 3 times, and it was bad. And Teddy Bridgewater, conversely, went out there and stroked it. And they were like, okay, we've seen enough. Because in Vic Fangio's mind, and this is why they traded for Teddy Bridgewater, he's like, look, my defense is going to be good. And if I can just go out here and hold teams to 20, Teddy Bridgewater is not going to turn it over. He's going to make smart decisions with the football, and he's going to give us a chance. We may not win the game, but he's going to give us a chance. With Drew Lock, we can get blown out of some games because he's going to turn it over, which is what Teddy Bridgewater did last week, which is why they were getting their doors blown off 31-10 at one point in that game, is because they can't afford to turn it over. Like when you're not a good football team and you don't have a dynamic offense, or your defense stinks, one or the other or both, your margin of error is zero. It's really small, which is why Washington, as a Washington fan, when we turn it over, when we have turnovers and penalties and mistakes, we get blown out. And when we don't, we have a chance because we can't afford to make mistakes. When we make mistakes, our margin of error isn't what it is for the Green Bay Packers or the Baltimore Ravens or the Kansas City Chiefs or, one of these really good teams in the league, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Los Angeles Rams, where they can turn it over 2 or 3 times. I mean, remember week 1, the Buccaneers, how many times did they turn it over? 4 times, I think, in that first game? They still won the game because they got a much bigger margin for error. We turn it over once, and we probably aren't going to win the game. We might still, just depends on how well we played offensively. But we turn it over twice, we're going to lose. More likely than not, we're going to lose the game. And that's where the Denver Broncos are. They can't afford that one interception that Teddy Bridgewater threw is the difference between them getting a potential field goal attempt and not losing this game by 3 or losing this game by 3. That's how small the margin of error is for the Denver Broncos. You can't turn it over. You can't have mistakes because you're the worst team in the league in third down efficiency offensively. You're one of the worst scoring teams in the league offensively. So you can't afford mistakes. And Drew Lock makes mistakes. And that's why he didn't get in the game. If Teddy Bridgewater is healthy, that's going to be Vic Fangio's guy because he views Teddy Bridgewater as the guy that gives him the best chance to win because although Drew Lock is going to take more risk and therefore you're going to have a chance to score more points, he's sort of like Ryan Fitzpatrick in that sense. He no risk it, no biscuit. He's willing to risk it. But a lot of times it goes awry and it turns into a mistake and a turnover, and that hurts the defense. So that's why you didn't see him tonight. If Teddy could go, they're going to keep riding Teddy Bridgewater. Red Wings 01 writes, this game was NyQuil in football form. Yawn. Yeah, it was not the most entertaining game to watch. I will grant you that. It wasn't boring in the sense that it was what I thought it was going to be. And it wasn't a blowout. If this thing had gotten to like 24-3 status, it would have been a tough watch. But because the Browns never truly ran away and hid, and the Broncos came out in the second half and established that we weren't going to just lay down and die, I said, okay, maybe we got something here. And we could have had some real drama had they gotten a stop, and the Broncos offense would have gotten a chance to at least have an opportunity to get it into field goal range to see if we couldn't force some overtime action, but never got there. And I don't know if we even got to a key third down situation that the Browns had to convert on that last drive. I think they just continued to move the ball on second down and get first down. So Niners fan writes, Broncos defense is so disappointing, even with the injuries. Also, I know Von Miller was injured, but he definitely didn't back up all his pregame trash talk today. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It really is because they know he's the only guy on this defense that can hurt us. I was watching Von really closely because, as you mentioned, he was talking a lot of shit. Like, yeah, I got to step up, and I'm going to dominate. He's like, whoever they got at right tackle, I don't care. I'm going to kill him. Well, they're like, no, the hell you're not, because you're going to take this double team with the guard. You're going to take this double team with the tight end. You're going to take this chip. Like, they did a lot of shit to make sure that Von never really got clean rushes off. And when he did, Case Keenum did a really good job of being responsible and stepping up into the pocket to make sure that Von wasn't able to, flatten to the quarterback and get him. So, yeah, he wasn't dominating the game, but he went down trying. He almost got him on the play he got injured on. He was this close, crashing into his teammate. But yeah, the Broncos defense definitely disappointing. I agree with that assessment wholeheartedly. Kyle, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Kyle writes, Kyle, Vikings fingerprints all over this game. Keenum, Teddy, G. Payton, Stefanski, Shermer, about right. Mediocre teams with good D but lacking offense. Yeah, this. They talked about the Vikings influence in this game for sure. And I mean, it starts with Kevin Stefanski, obviously, and what he brings to the table. It really, it's all about Gary Kubiak. I mean, Kubiak's the guy. Him and Shanahan are the two that are really keeping alive that zone run blocking scheme and making it prevalent. And the fingerprints are all over the league now. With the Shanahans, with Sean McVay, and now you're seeing it in Green Bay with Matt LaFleur. All of these guys have that influence in their play calling and in their scheme and system. And I just love that offense. I really think it's one of the most reliable. Like, if you want an offense that's going to be a well-oiled machine that won't let you down, like, there won't be many weeks where the Browns won't be efficient offensively. There'll be weeks where, maybe they don't convert on third downs for whatever reason, or they got penalties or mistakes, and that stops them. But they're going to be efficient offensively. The Rams are going to be efficient offensively most weeks because that offense is just about foolproof. You got to be a damn fool to F that up. The zone run blocking scheme, to me, is one of the safest offenses to run if you're looking to be efficient, because it's hard to stop. If you've got the right running back to take advantage of cutback lanes or the press to then set up cutbacks, you got a gold mine on your hands. Then off of that, you get the defense running, you get the defense tired, you go bootleg off of that. You got some athletic, tight ends and, backs and receivers. They come free. I mean, that's why you see Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods wide ass open, because it's zone run. Boot, boot. Here comes Robert Wood across the formation. And now you're chasing boot because they've been running, and you've been chasing backside, not to give up that cutback lane. And now, all of a sudden, here comes Robert Woods across the formation, and boom, they hit you with the fake. And out the other side, and here comes a wide open wide receiver. I just love that offense. That guys are always constantly open because you got to respect the run. And you saw it tonight with the Browns in particular, man. Like you said, the Vikings fingerprints all over this game with Stefanski, and as you mentioned, all of the different players, Teddy Bridgewater, and all the guys, Case Keenum that spent time in Minnesota. I always enjoy watching that offense. I enjoy watching Kyle Shanahan's offense. I enjoy watching the Rams and the Packers because it's so efficient. It's predictable, yet you can't stop it because it's efficient. Got another super chat. This one is from Captain Spartan 04. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Captain Spartan writes, save this for the end. It's Braves talk. We can have it right now. Not worried at all. Funny enough, been saying I'm not scared of Max Scherzer. Time to face my words. Let's go, Ian. I was talking to my buddy because we've got these plans of going to the World Series. If the Braves are to make it, and I'm confident that they will, and we were already making plans last week. I made plans when we finished off the Brewers. I said, I want the Dodgers. He wanted the Giants. And I said, you being a bitch right now for wanting the Giants. I want the Dodgers. Everybody wants the Dodgers. If you're a real, competitor, you want the Dodgers. You're sick and tired of being eliminated by the Dodgers. They're the best team. They won the World Series last year. They knocked us out. We had a 3-1 lead. I want revenge. I want the Dodgers. And not only do I want the Dodgers, we're going to beat the Dodgers, go to the World Series, and I'm going to go to those games in Atlanta because I want to see the team up close and personal. Never been to Truist Park in Cobb County. I want to go. And what better way to celebrate and go than at a World Series game? We haven't been in 22 years. So I was like, hit up my dad. I was like, he's a Braves fan as well. Like, yo, boss, you trying to go to this game if we make the World Series when we make it? He's like, yeah, damn right, I want to go. And so I told my buddy, see if your dad, that we're all Braves fans. If your dad wants to go as well, we can make this a father-son trip and we're going to make it happen. And we were talking, and my dad's like, yo, we need to end this tonight. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't see them coming back to Atlanta and beating us twice. But he's like, look, we got our best pitcher on the mound tonight. We need to get it done. I'm like, you're right. And Max didn't have his stuff tonight. Max was getting tattooed. I mean, everything off the bat was getting hit. 105, 108, I think one offering, I think the one that Chris Taylor hit, the first home run, I think he hit 3 tonight. The first of which, I think he left the bat at like 112. I mean, Max was getting tattooed. They were seeing it. And I think his biggest problem tonight is he just left too many pitches up in the strike zone. When Max is at his best, he keeps the ball low. Everything was up in the zone where they could see it. Pujols had a couple of nice swings. AJ Pollock got it started when he lifted one out of the park. And then, Chris Taylor, he's got a vicious uppercut swing, does Chris Taylor. So you can't elevate the ball against him. You got to keep it low because his swing is tailor-made to take the ball out of the ballpark because he's golfing everything with that uppercut. And they teach you, he swings violently, first of all. He swings a big stick, man. But they teach the new hitters coming into the game to swing uppercut, like Freddie Freeman does the same thing, uppercut, because that's how you elevate the ball to get it out of the park, if you're looking to hit home runs. But I'm not afraid of the Dodgers. I think we're fine. Everybody's going to start talking about, 3-1 again. And, you know what happened last year, and they're going to expect us to blow it. So you're going to have to hear that for the next 48 hours until we play again. But I feel confident that we're going to take care of business. And you know what? The fans at, Truist Park deserve to see the final game clinched to go to the World Series in Atlanta. They deserve that. So I'm looking forward to going back to the A and getting it done on Saturday, afternoon and wrapping this thing up. And hopefully the Houston Astros will await us. I wanted the Red Sox, but for purposes of going to the games, it makes more sense if the Astros win that series so that the 3 games in the middle will be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which you can't get it much better than that if you're trying to go to the ballpark, right? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because the first 2 games on Tuesday and Wednesday will be in Houston. Then you travel on Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday in Atlanta, and then back to Houston if 6 and 7 are necessary. So that's my mindset. I'm not worried about Max Scherzer. I'm not worried about Walker Buehler or Jose Urias or any of these pitchers. I really wanted to see Joe Kelly. I'm mad he got hurt because we were going to tear his ass up. That was a blessing in disguise for the Dodgers, honestly, tonight. We jumped on him first thing in the first inning, 2-run shot for Freddie, and we were ready. And then he got injured, and they brought in some relievers, and they kicked our ass tonight. So I'm not worried. I'm like you. Let's get it on. All right, Ian, you're up. Anyway, let's get back to the football talk. Sorry about that, guys. Y'all know how I get sometimes. Red Wings 01 writes, got to give Dearness Johnson some love, though. Dude stepped up big tonight. I told you guys about Dearness Johnson, man. I watched him last year, and I felt like Troy Aikman, and Troy was being funny. He's like, I watched every carry. Made it seem like he had 152 carries last year. He only had 33. And he said that. He's like, he only had 33 carries. But I just remember every time I saw him, and again, you're not going to get many touches when you're on the Browns with them having Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. So there's not a lot of opportunities. But when those opportunities did present itself last year, I thought Dearness Johnson was magnificent. And that I took notice of that. And I said, okay, there's something here with this guy. And even seeing him in limited, duty this year, I'm like, this dude, when he gets the football, he makes things happen. Same thing with Demetric Felton. I'm like, they still got dudes, and so he got his opportunity tonight, and he took full advantage of it. Like, I seriously believe, Dearness Johnson could start for a team in this league. Unfortunately, he's 3rd on the depth chart behind 2 really good backs in Cleveland. And when they get healthy, he'll go back to a very minuscule role. But he showed tonight that, if that opportunity presents itself down the road, and I don't think he would be a free agent for another 2 years, more likely than not. The Browns should have his rights for 2 more years after this year because he was on their team last year, and now this is his 2nd year of what is probably more likely than not a 4-year contract. So I don't think he'll get an opportunity to start anytime soon, but man, is he talented. He's not young. Obviously, they said he went to the AAF and, this, that, and the third. So he's not a young guy, but there's not a lot of mileage, in terms of the NFL, at least, off of those tires. So anyway, thought he was fantastic, as you mentioned tonight. Took full advantage of the opportunity that was given to him. And what better way to do it than on a primetime stage and the platform that he was given tonight on Thursday night where everybody's watching. Great job by Dearness Johnson. Keep wanting to call him DeAnthony because I'm a Grizzlies fan and we got DeAnthony Melton. But Dearness Johnson, really big game for him tonight. He carried the Browns offense essentially on his back and did a hell of a job doing it. Got a super chat. Trucker Mark USA. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Trucker Mark USA writes, Broncos are the weak. 3 wins against weak teams. He says Broncos are weak. 3 wins against 3 weak teams. Facts. And I talked about this when I went over the schedule and I said, why can't Washington turn their season around? Like we all talked about Denver, and I thought, much like I did with Washington, that their defense would be better than what it is. Silly me for thinking that Vic Fangio and being this maniacal, diabolical defensive genius and having the talent that they have in Denver. I mean, they went overboard, similar to Washington, you could argue. And I saw a tweet on socials, on Twitter, from somebody, I can't remember who, but they said the Denver Broncos are a case study on why you should never go defense over drafting a quarterback. And it worked in 15. It worked so here's the thing. And I think it's a chicken or the egg complex, right? Everybody will tell you, get the quarterback first, figure everything else out later. But there are people, and I'm one of them, in that camp of, hey, build the roster up. The last thing I want to do is get a quarterback and then he gets his ass whooped for 2 years while you're trying to build the roster so that you can compete. And by the time you get the roster up to speed, he's taken such a beating that he's not the same guy he was when he came into the league. So I'd much rather have the roster waiting for him. And when he comes in, he can just hit the ground running. Yeah, he'll struggle and there'll be growing pains, but it won't be because the rest of the team around him stinks. It'll be because he just hasn't taken those steps to, be ready to do the things that we need him to do. And maybe that happens in year 2. Case in point, Josh Allen. Okay, they knew Tyrod Taylor wasn't the guy, but Tyrod Taylor, and which is why I think Washington was trying to do. Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to give us a chance. Alex Smith, gave us a chance last year. And Ryan Fitzpatrick was supposed to give us a chance this year to compete while we continue to build the roster and be competitive, make the playoffs. And then you draft Josh Allen and you drop him in the middle. He struggled in his first season, right? But you had all the pieces already. The defense was already built and you were building the infrastructure of the offense. Maybe not all the pieces you need offensively, but you were building that infrastructure. He struggled in his first season, which is understandable. But then year 2, playoffs. Why? Because the roster was already built. He just had to be ready to take that next step. And he was in year 2. Year 3, AFC Championship game. Okay? That's the ideal scenario when you build the roster and then drop the quarterback in. But it doesn't always go that way. And the Denver Broncos are a perfect case study because they've been building this defense for years. Now, not to say that they haven't tried at quarterback, right? They drafted Paxton Lynch in the first round. Epic fail. Okay. They drafted Brock Osweiler. What was that? A second round pick? Third at the worst? Epic fail again. Okay. It's not for a lack of trying. Now they inserted Peyton Manning, and what did they do? They won a Super Bowl. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They tried with Jameis Winston. They had the infrastructure of that team built already, though. Okay. They had all the talent. They had Mike Evans. But Jameis just wasn't good enough. But the infrastructure was built. So you add Tom Brady, you win a Super Bowl. Like, it's not hard in terms of the theory working. It's just hard to pull it off because then you got to find that quarterback. Denver has never found a quarterback. So it keeps making them look like everything they've done has been done in vain. But I'm not mad at them for drafting Patrick Surtain. He looks legit. Not mad at them for drafting Bradley Chubb. He's legit when healthy. I'm not mad at them for spending all of this draft capital on defensive studs because if you don't love a quarterback, you don't take a quarterback. And that's what some people I don't think understand. Now, I've had several discussions with people about one in particular. My guy Gilman McKinney, over at the Juice Alert. I was on his show like 2-3 months ago, and he said, you guys should have taken a quarterback this year. He's a Packers fan, and he's like, you should have taken, Mac Jones, or you should have taken Justin Fields. You had opportunities to trade up and go get a guy, and you guys just sat on your hands, and now your offense stinks, and you should have a quarterback, and you should be working with that guy. And I'm like, but what if we didn't love any of those quarterbacks? You want us to take them anyway, just for the sake of saying, well, we don't have a quarterback, we need to take a quarterback. It's not how it works. I got to love that guy. I got to believe in that guy because my job is tied to the success of that quarterback. If he stinks and he doesn't work out, more likely than not, I'm going to be fired because of it. So I need to make sure that it's funny, Colts GM, and we'll move on after this. I don't want to talk your head off. I'm going down a tangent or going down a rabbit hole, and I'm off kilter. I don't even know what the original question was. That's how far off I've gone on a tangent. But the GM, one of my favorite GMs in the league, Chris Ballard for the Indianapolis Colts, he said, you guys want me to draft a quarterback in the first round. But the sooner I draft one of those guys, the sooner you guys can run me out of here. His point being, if I don't draft a quarterback, it buys me more time because I'll have the crutch of being able to say, hey, don't have one of those guys. But the minute you invest in a first-round quarterback, now everybody's like, hey, clock's ticking. Tick, 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 tick. What's going on here? You got your guy. This guy stinks right now. What's going on? You build the team up, and then you drop the quarterback in. That's what the Indianapolis Colts are trying to do right now with Carson Wentz. They had the infrastructure of that team built. Unfortunately, Andrew Luck retired. Then Phillip Rivers retired. And so now they're like, I got to figure it out. They're like, I don't want to mess with any of these quarterbacks in the draft. We'll go get Carson Wentz instead. The Broncos have failed to find I didn't realize since 2016 they've started the most quarterbacks, 10. Didn't realize that they were leading the pack there. But that's a thing, a real thing in Denver right now. And getting back to the original Super Chat, they don't have the quarterback. So when they play teams that are any good, they're going to struggle. And defensively, they're not all that great either, which is really disappointing because that's supposed to be where they hang their hat on. And that's, I think, where I started the tangent at, which with Washington as well. You're supposed to be able to hang your hat on your defense. So what happens when you invest heavily on the defensive side of the football and they don't, give you a return on that investment? That's when shit goes awry. And that's when everybody starts talking about, hey, you should have drafted a quarterback. Well, that's great in hindsight. It's easy to look back now and say what I should have done. Were you screaming that in the moment? Who knows? Anyway, I digress. Trucker Mark USA, thank you for the super chat. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Trucker Mark USA, who writes, Peyton Manning is not walking through that door. LOL. He sure is not. He'll be walking back through our Monday night door next week, though. He'll be back for Monday Night Football. Saints at Seahawks. So that'll be fun to see him and Eli back on the MegaCast. But he's not walking through that door for the Denver Broncos. No, he is not. And I think they keep waiting for him to come back and save them, but it's not happening. They're going to have to actually find their own quarterback. And I've said this already, which is why John Elway, I think, partly gave up the GM title to George Patton, because the new GM of the Denver Broncos, who came from Minnesota, right? Part of that Minnesota connection that we talked about tonight. Part of the reason I think he gave it up is because, the seat was getting hot and everybody wanted to run him out of town because he can't find a quarterback. The only success they've had at quarterback was him being able to lure Peyton Manning to Denver in free agency the year that Peyton Manning, and I didn't realize this, but Washington was super close to getting him. Like Mike Shanahan was this close to getting Peyton Manning to come to Washington, but the lure of John Elway and what he told Peyton Manning they could do, which it ultimately worked out. They won a Super Bowl. lured him to Denver, but he hasn't been able to draft quarterbacks, whether it's Trevor Siemian in the 7th round, Brock Osweiler in the 2nd or 3rd whenever they drafted him, or Paxton Lynch. They've struggled with the quarterback position, and now Drew Lock in the 2nd round. You know, they've struggled over and over and over and over again at the quarterback position. All right. Let's get to our next comment. Niners fan writes, I would guess Fangio is on the hot seat because this defense is super talented. It's talented. I think sometimes we overrate how talented defenses are. You know, you got to get a couple of names and you're like, oh man, that's a super talented defense. Like in Washington, for instance, I think we overrated how talented that defense is. You know, you think about the defensive line, which is very talented, but there's not a lot of talent after that. You know, you look at all the other positions, the other 7 that are on the field, and you're like, not really all that talented at linebacker. I love me some Cole Holcomb, but you know, he's not a game changer by any stretch of the imagination. He's not Shaq Thompson or Darius Leonard or, you know, my guy, I can't ever remember his name, and I love him too, from the 49ers. You know, he's not him. He's not any of them. He's not a needle mover. Jamin Davis is a rookie. I don't expect much out of him. You know, the secondary has been a massive disappointment. There are no dogs in that secondary, not a single one. Maybe Benjamin St-Juste turns into one. He looks to be the best of the group right now, which is sad because he's a rookie. But we overrated. We talked about how talented this defense was. Really? Is it? Same thing can be said for the Denver Broncos. Name another Denver Broncos defender not named Von Miller that was in the game tonight in the front 7. Not the secondary. You can name Justin Simmons. You can name Patrick Surtain. You can name Ronald Darby in the secondary. I can name Bryce Callahan in the secondary. Name a front 7 guy other than Von Miller. And Bradley Chubb didn't play tonight. I'm talking about the people that played tonight. You can't. Why? Because it's not that talented. And sure, they got some injuries. Josie Jewell injured. You know, Chubb injured. Doesn't matter. That's where depth comes into play. If you're super talented, then the next guy up, there shouldn't be, you falling off of a cliff. Anyway, I don't know if his seat is the hottest because this defense is super talented. I just think it's hot because you started 3-0. You came into this season already feeling like dead man walking if you didn't have success. You get off to a 3-0 start. Granted, it was against lesser competition, but it gave you a head start, and you've already blown that head start. It's almost like you're playing to 11, and you spot somebody 8 points, and you're like, hey, I'm going to give you 8 points. We playing at 11 straight up. And you blink twice, and that 8-point lead is already gone. And now you're down to point game. And that's kind of where Vic Fangio is right now. You know, they got to stop this bleeding. And they got the right team coming to town next week to do it in Washington, to stop this 4-game skid and go into, get back to 500 and maybe turn the season around. The doctor ordered up Washington at the perfect time because, if the knockout blow would have been, the Chiefs next week or, another team that could score it next week. That would have been all she wrote for them. 5 straight losses, they would have been dead. But Washington comes to town, and they might be able to handle those guys. So we'll see what happens. Niners fan says, maybe Von just isn't that guy anymore. Broncos should just build their pass rush around Chubb and trade Miller. Well, Von Miller got off to a tear, just a rousing start this season. It's just been these last few games. And honestly, I feel like once Chubb got out of the lineup, I don't need to focus. And this goes back to, the lack of talent. Who else do I need to focus on? Who else do I need to stop? So now I'm just going to stop Von Miller and dare somebody else to beat me. There isn't anybody else. So That's why I think the numbers have significantly decreased the last 3-4 weeks, because those first 3 weeks he was harassing everybody. He sacked Daniel Jones, forced a fumble in that game, I believe. He had another good performance in week 2, I think against the Jags. He was everywhere in those first 3 weeks. Then Chubb goes down, and he's been quiet ever since. Excuse me. Rewrites 3-0 to 3-4. Oof. Vic Fangio, the mob boss, may end up getting whacked. Yeah, it's coming. At the end of the season, I don't think they make a move in season. Really doesn't make any sense to do so. Unless, you want to get a head start on the rest of the teams looking for a new head coach. In the offseason, by not having a permanent coach, you can start looking at that point. But if you have a permanent coach, you cannot start your process until the season is over and you fire that coach. So in theory, if you want to get a jump, that's why you would fire your coach in season. But I don't really see the basis for it. If I'm the Broncos, just let it play out, and then you get your guy at the end of the season. But yeah, looks like Vic Fangio is going to get whacked. The mob boss is going to get whacked. Only one rail writes, surprise, I didn't go to sleep. This, to me, and I was wide awake because I had a nap today, but had I not had a nap, this would have been a game. And obviously the Braves were on, so I had something to keep me engaged. But had I not had a nap today, this would have been the type of game that easily could have put me down, for a good quarter and a half. And then I would have had to wake up and play catch up. Reese says, injuries don't seem to bother Cleveland too much. Everyone they have is banged up. That would gut most teams. Again, when you're well coached and you have depth that fits. And again, I told you, the one scheme in the league where it's dummy proof is the zone run blocking scheme. You can plug anybody. I mean, it's not a surprise that the Ernest Johnson gets his first career NFL start and rushes for 146 yards. That's not a surprise to me. Why? Because I watched Mike Shanahan take Olandis Gary and Mike Anderson and Tatum Bell, and the list goes on and on and on. Torian or Mike, what was his name? Terrain. I can't think of his first name. Ryan Terrain. I watched him take all of these running backs that were essentially bums, undrafted guys that no one even gave a second look to, and turn them into 1,000-yard rushers. Alfred Morris right now has the Washington football team single season rushing record for most yards in a single season. Why? Because of Robert Griffin III's, impact on the run game, obviously, but also because of the Shanahan zone run blocking scheme. It's just hard to stop. And so despite having guys out, despite having offensive linemen out, despite having some of your better receivers and skill guys out, it doesn't matter. That offense is foolproof. It really, truly is. And I mean that. Defensively, they have been banged up, but, not to the extent that it's going to kill them. Myles Garrett is the guy that really makes that engine go. Makes that car go. He's the engine powering that thing, and he's been healthy all season long. Jadeveon Clowney's been in and out of lineup. What's new? Everywhere he goes, he gets injured, but he's played the last 2 weeks. Good for him. The week prior to that, he was out. They've had injuries in that secondary. Obviously, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah just went on IR. That hurts. That stings. But, at the end of the day, they got talent, man, and they've got depth. I mean, look at the secondary. Greedy Williams and Denzel Ward, and I love Greg Newsome, who they got in the first round this year. Dude's a dog. I mean, they got so many corners. Grant Delpit didn't even play last year. He went down with an injury. He comes back this year, and they signed John Johnson as a safety. Like, they got stuff everywhere, okay? They're loaded, man. So they got talent, and they got depth. That's the most important thing. Reese says, Von Miller was talking shit, said he was going to kill the Browns. Keep your words soft and sweet because you may have to eat them later. Yeah, I think that was just a bit of frustration, and he felt like, I'm going to take it out on these guys because they got nobody. They're going to put a bum right tackle, backup right tackle in front of me. They got Case Keenum out there. He's like, yo, Case was on our squad. I know he's cheeks. I know he's straight buns. I'm gonna get me some tonight. So, he was probably looking at the circumstances. I ain't got to worry about the run game. They don't have Chubb. They don't have Hunt. Oh, I'm eating tonight. We're going to stop the run on first and second down, and then we're going to have us a party on third down. That's what he was thinking. What he didn't account for was the Ernest Johnson digging in their ass. That's what he didn't account for. Niners fan says, Broncos are the perfect example of why you take into account the competition teams have faced when you're judging their records, feasted on the poor early in the season. Yeah, and we talked about that, and the Panthers are the NFC version of that. Both of those teams started out 3-0. Both of those teams were garnering a ton of attention, and both of their defenses looked elite in those first 3 weeks. The Panthers had, remember, on that going into that Thursday night game, they were 2-0, and they had the number one defense in the league, and they suffocated the Texans on Thursday night with the rookie quarterback Davis Mills making his first career NFL start. And I was guilty. I got sucked in. I was like, man, this Panthers. But remember, they lost some players that night, including their first round cornerback, Horn, J.C. Horn, and they really haven't been the same since. But I think it's less of, the injury of J.C. Horn coinciding with the 3-game skid that they're currently on, and more about the fact that the level of competition just elevated. You're not playing Houston and the Jets any longer. You're not playing Dallas and Minnesota and all these offenses that can score and that are explosive, and they've had a tough time holding those teams down. So, yeah. I think the Broncos are in that same discussion with the Carolina Panthers. Reese says, gotta love a fullback touchdown. It's not a lot of teams that still, deploy the fullback, but again, when you have all these zone run blocking teams, I should say, have fullbacks, and if you don't have a fullback, you got a tight end that you feel comfortable in that role. But it's so crazy is that the NFL has evolved so much so that the tight end or the fullback has become almost obsolete. But yet, when teams use them, because you don't see it as often, the guy gets lost. I can't tell you how many times I've seen wide open fullbacks because you're just not used to covering a fullback anymore. Captain Spartan 04 says, so Kevin Stefanski was the better Vikings offensive mind than Pat Shurmur. I don't know if that's the case or not. I know that Pat Shurmur has done some really good things as an OC, not necessarily as a head coach, but as an OC, he's done some really good things in this league. But I want to say that Shurmur was responsible for that Case Keenum season in Minnesota when they went to the NFC Championship game. I want to say that was Shurmur. And then that first year with Kirk in Minnesota, that was Stefanski. And then that second year of Kirk, that's when Stefanski got the job with Cleveland. And he's been there now for 2 years. And I think this is the third year of Kirk in Minnesota. I think I got that right. Kirk's last year in Washington was 17. So 18, 19, 20. Man, I'm way off. 18, 19, 20. This is Kirk's fourth year in Minnesota. So that first year, they didn't make the playoffs with Kirk. It was a big disappointment because they were one game away from the Super Bowl. They thought Kirk was going to put them over the top. He did not. That second year, he takes them to the playoffs. They upset the Saints. And then last year, they did not make the playoffs again. So this is the fourth year of Kirk in Minnesota. And so Stefanski was there for the first 2 years of Kirk. So he got the job after he helped coordinate the Vikings to the divisional round against the 49ers, where they got steamrolled in that game in San Francisco after defeating the Saints on the road in overtime. So I don't know if you could say that, because with Shermer, they made it all the way. I believe Shermer was the OC when they made it all the way to the NFC Championship game. Don't quote me on that. Condoleezza Perry, my girl Condo P, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, writes, I'm still not sure on this team. I'm still not sure this team can take the Broncos, even if they're minus Von Miller. You shouldn't be sure about that. I mean, our team doesn't instill confidence in any fan out there that we can do anything other than show up. Not necessarily show out or be competitive even, but they'll show up. That's the only guarantee, is that they'll be there. But you shouldn't feel confident. I don't feel confident. I'm just telling you, it's a winnable game. And that's all I've said about teams left on the schedule after Green Bay, is that they're all winnable, except obviously I feel like Tampa's another kamikaze mission. But after Tampa Bay, they're all winnable. And that Broncos game right before the bye week is very winnable. Green Bay and Tampa are the two last kamikaze missions, I feel like, on the schedule, where you're like, I'm probably going to go in here and get and get killed. But I'm willing to sacrifice to find out. It's more likely than not going to end up in a very slow death in those games. Denver, I look at and I say, why can't we beat Denver? Why can't we beat Seattle? Why can't we beat Carolina? Why can't we beat Dallas, Philadelphia, so forth and so forth? The Giants, the Raiders. Like, are these teams better than us? Most of them, yeah, absolutely. Doesn't mean we can't take them, So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not 1,000% confident. What we do in the game against Green Bay is going to go a long way. How healthy we come out of that game, if we get some guys back going into that game, all of these things will be factors as to how I feel about that game. The Broncos will be getting some guys back. The Broncos will be 10 days rested, and Teddy Bridgewater won't be dealing with as ailing of a foot, in that game, and they should feel a lot better about their chances going up against a really bad team. They'll be looking in the mirror and saying, hey, Washington's on a 3-game losing streak, and they've only won 2 games. We should be, again, they'll be looking at us like food, and we should be looking at them like food. We'll both have plates in our hands. We'll both have forks. We'll both have our napkins neatly tucked into our shirts, ready to devour the other. But only one will eat, and we will see. We will see who will be the predator and who will be the prey. Should be fun, but we got a whole entire game before that one. But you start to look ahead when you realize not going to win the one that's in front of us. So let's talk about the one we do have a chance to win. Reed writes, Teddy Bridgewater was our top choice if we couldn't get Brady. I wonder how he'd be in this offense that is so predicated on explosiveness. I can tell you how it would be. You'd score 24 points. You'd be in a dogfight every week. You'd lose some games that you should win. You'd win a couple of games that you should lose. But for the most part, you'd end the season 8-9, and you'd be right back where you were with Jameis Winston. That's where you'd be. Because your defense would have to be dominant. Like, if you want Alex Smith results with black Alex Smith, you got to have the same results Alex Smith had. Defense was playing lights out, and you got to have some really super talented skill guys around, which is why Alex Smith had some of the best years of his career towards the end of his Kansas City tenure, because he had Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. You can't go wrong with those guys, and the Bucs have that kind of talent. But the Chiefs were also stopping teams defensively. But then when they weren't, Alex Smith wasn't capable enough of winning a shootout, and that's where they would lose. So that's probably what would have happened to you. Because when Brady has to, he's capable of throwing for 447, 4 or 5 touchdowns and outdoing. Like, I'll give you a great example. Last year, Brady had to get on his horse against Justin Herbert as a rookie. He came in slinging that thing against Shaw, and it turned into a shootout, and Brady had to get on the horse, because without it, you wouldn't have won that game. And that's pretty much, what you wouldn't be able to do with Teddy Bridgewater. There's no getting on the horse with Teddy Bridgewater. That horse is galloping at the same pace all the time. Slow and methodical. Okay? There's no giddy up. There's no getting that horse to speed up. That horse is like, hey, man, if you don't stop hitting me, this is as fast as I go. That's Teddy Bridgewater. Take a couple more and then we'll get out of here. Captain Spartan 04 writes, who's going to be more of a hot name for defensive coordinator hire next year, Vic Fangio or Gus Bradley? Well, if I'm not mistaken, Gus Bradley already is employed, right? Isn't he in Vegas with the Raiders? If that's the case, unless what you're saying is they're going to get a new head coach, you're acting as if this Rich Bisaccia isn't going to be retained full time. Like, I listen to Mike Mayock and he sounds like he loves the guy. I don't know if Mike Mayock's going anywhere. He sounds like he loves Rich Bisaccia. Who's to say that Rich Bisaccia doesn't get this group to play their best brand of football? They make the postseason. Gus Bradley isn't going anywhere. You're assuming that they're not going to hire Rich Bisaccia. He's just an interim head coach. They're going to bring in a new staff, and that new staff is going to want to bring in their own guys, and Bradley will be available next year. That's your assumption. I'm not making that assumption right now. Vic Fangio, on the other hand, probably going to get canned. And yes, he will be available to be someone's defensive coordinator if he so chooses. You know, sometimes these coaches, you know, they get an ego after they've had a taste of being a head guy and they don't want to be a coordinator anymore. I don't think he'll be that way. Generally, the guys that feel that way are the ones that have had success as a head coach, like Lovie Smith and Ron Rivera, and even, you know, Rex Ryan, you know, was like, I'm not going back to being anybody's coordinator, you know. When you've had success in this league, it's hard to go back as a head coach. It's hard to go back to being subordinate. You know, when you've been in control of a team and been barking out orders, it's hard to then go back to taking orders. But when you didn't have success as a head coach, it's very easy to go back, to humble yourself and go back to being a coordinator, like Leslie Frazier, for instance, you know, or Wade Phillips for many years and many, many times, you know, or Norv Turner as an offensive guy, you know. But when you've had success, it's tough. You're generally like, no, I'm a head coach now. So Vic Fangio, if he's a football lifer, you know, he's been doing it forever. Who knows? He might be like, you know what? I'm done. Like David Culley said before he got to Texas, he's like, I'm not taking any more assistant jobs. The only other job I'm taking is a head coach job. Other than that, I'm done. So, you know, Vic Fangio, he's an older guy, as we know. He's not a spring chicken. He might be like, yeah, I'm done, man. I'm over this shit. I'm done. But I think that Fangio will be in high demand as a defensive coordinator. We'll see about Gus Bradley. Got a super chat here from Fat American. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Fat American. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Fat American, writes, yo, Lou, I made it just in time. You did, because I'm about to get out of here. He says, anyways, here's your Fat American's hot take of the week. KFC's chicken sandwich is better than Popeye's. Good night. You know what? That is the perfect way to end this show. I haven't ate at KFC. Obviously, I'm a vegan, so I have no business being at either one of those establishments. But even before I became a vegan, I hadn't eaten at KFC in probably a decade. You know, I used to crush those boneless barbecue. What am I doing right now? This is not the podcast. Fat American, you tricky Fat American. You almost got me, man. You almost got me going down a really weird rabbit hole here, and that's for the podcast. That is not for overtime. Anyway, I digress. I'm going to get out of here. I'm done with y'all. Browns get the win tonight, 17-14. It was exactly what we expected. It's what we saw coming when we saw the injury report for both teams. Short week, and this is when Thursday night football can be a hindrance. When you got some guys that could use the extra days of rest and recovery and some of that treatment that they need for those additional days to get ready for a Sunday game. You don't have that on a Thursday game. It can affect your team. And the Browns, credit them for navigating their way through a tough situation. Half of their offense literally was out of this ball game, and yet they found a way to go out, execute. And I thought it was really interesting. And I'm going to say this, and we're going to get out of here. I thought it was really interesting that in a day and age where teams, when they win the toss, 95% of the time, and I agree with this, defer to the second half. Kevin Stefanski won the toss, and he elected to receive. And they went right down the field. They scored a touchdown, and they set the tone for the game. That doesn't happen very often anymore because, again, you can score on your opening possession. It doesn't really mean a damn thing. But in this particular game, when you're playing against an anemic offense like the Broncos, going out and setting the tone, getting your fans involved early, getting that crowd riled up, scoring a touchdown the way they did on that opening possession, I thought that was a statement. We won the toss. We took the football. We moved it right down the field. We scored a touchdown. I felt like they took the Broncos' heart in that moment. And again, wasn't a lot of points scored in this game. But that touchdown, I thought, set the tone for what would be a Browns 17-14 victory. Kevin Stefanski, I told you, think the world of this guy, and he just continues to impress. Had a 2-game skid. It was his first as Browns head coach. An amazing stat there because, as they alluded to on the telecast, before he got there, the Browns had 12 straight losing seasons. So to have a coach come in and not lose 2 consecutive games at any point in his first year, which helped him win head coach of the year, which was rightfully deserved. And then the next year to come out and not have 2 straight through the first 5 weeks says a lot about what Kevin Stefanski has done in Cleveland as their head coach. But big win for them, snaps the 2-game skid, gets them back to over 500, at 4-3. Broncos drop to 3-4 with the loss after starting the season 3-0. That's 4 straight losses. And I don't know, maybe the seat is getting hot for Vic Fangio. We'll see. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. I thank you guys for joining me. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Turn on your notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And also hit the like button, as that helps this channel grow immensely. Over 110 of you out there, only 55 likes. We can do so much better than that. So please and thank you on the way out. And get off the bench, get in the game, and kick it with me, your man Louie T. Enjoy your weekend. I got a busy day on Friday. I'm just going to tell you in advance, I am hoping to do a podcast tomorrow or today on the East Coast. I am not 100% sure if that's going to take place or not. My goal is to do a podcast tomorrow, but we'll see. I can't make any guarantees nor promises, but the goal, the intent is to put out a podcast tomorrow. So stay tuned, or today. Stay tuned for that. And if I don't see you on Friday, you'll see me on Sunday for overtime. Washington first, and then Sunday Night Football overtime. Colts and Niners. Not the greatest week of primetime games. I've already stated that this is the first week where I'm not really excited or enthused about any of the games. Wasn't enthused about this one, not enthused about Colts at Niners, and I'm really not that charged for Saints Seahawks, especially now that it's Geno Smith. Do you realize that we've gotten 3 weeks straight of Geno Smith? Oh my God. Yikes. Got him on Thursday night, then got him on Sunday night. Now they're running the full gamut. 3 weeks straight. It was supposed to be Russ Wilson. It's Geno Smith. Yeah. Anyway, enjoy your weekend. I'll see you guys, hopefully, a lot sooner than later. Have a good one.